The Noahide laws are listed as prohibitions. Do nots. Do not murder, do not steal, do not eat the limb from a living animal, do not do this, do not do that. So essentially, if we just look at the Noahide laws, it looks like we best fulfill the Noahide laws by just sitting at home, doing nothing. In this way, we know for sure that we will not break a Noahide law. If we want to best keep the Noahide laws, basically, we should just mimic the cucumber. Let's just not do anything. Is this really what God wants from humanity? In this video, we explain why the answer is obviously no. And then we will further delve into what our purpose as Noahides, non-Jews, is. Now in the last video, we explained that creation's purpose is to reveal godliness in this world. Whenever we use our free will, which is a godly attribute, to then develop moral characteristics that God identifies with, then we will possess the most good, which is what God wants. God, being perfectly good, wanted to share his goodness with others, and this is how we achieve that goodness. In order for us, though, to develop these moral, godly attributes, there must, though, be a recipient, and that recipient is physicality, this world and our physical bodies. Whenever we freely perform a godly act using our physical bodies and the physical world, we then reveal God down in this world. We use an example that a dollar bill is just paper. However, when it's used to buy something, it becomes currency. Yet when it's used to help the poor, it becomes charity. Charity then elevates that paper to something beyond just paper, something that aligns with God. And the physical act of our bodies giving the paper then elevates our physical bodies because our physical bodies naturally want to keep the money. So when the physical is used for a higher purpose, especially one that aligns with God, it then reveals God in this world, which is maximal goodness. And so as more people live according to the moral principles that God identifies with, it becomes easier to recognize that this world has a moral order. The physical becomes elevated. We then begin to recognize that the moral values that everybody cherishes is what is truly right, and there must be a moral source behind this moral order, and that is God. When we try to reveal godliness in this world for God's sake, human beings become closer to God. We attach ourselves to God. And when we attach ourselves to God, that's attaching to the absolute good, maximal goodness, because God is maximally good. So this is what God wants, and this is what we should want. But now let's discuss what the Noahide laws are and how they fit into God's purpose for creation. The Noahide laws are the basic foundation for society to be able to reveal God. Imagine this. There's a path that leads to maximum godliness, maximum goodness. The further you travel down that path, the more goodness, more godliness you reveal. But the landscape is an open field. It's not clear what this path is. The Noahide laws are essentially the guardrails that make it so that we know that we're traveling down the right path. There's a path that leads to maximum godliness, and the Noahide laws are the guardrails that make sure that we're staying on that path. They're often called the basic foundation for civilization. For example, we can have a corrupt, wicked, or misguided society, but the Noahide laws make it so that society won't become corrupt, won't become wicked or misguided. Again, they're the foundation for building a relationship with God and revealing godliness in this world. But now think again about that path toward godliness. Again, the Noahide laws are the guardrails, but if we never take steps forward on that path, we will never reveal godliness. Walking the path means actively developing the moral and spiritual qualities that reflect God's will. When we cultivate these virtues within the framework that God has told us, the Noahide laws, we move closer to God. But this kind of explains why God doesn't want us to mimic the vegetable. If we mimic the vegetable, then we aren't walking on the path. Vegetables can't walk. We must do. We can't just sit there. But again, the Noahide laws are prohibitions, so non-Jews aren't obligated to walk down the path. But God, wanting us to have maximal goodness, obviously wants us to walk down the path. Now, the Jews have laws that show us non-Jews how to become closer to God in every facet of life. They have daily prayers, blessings before and after eating, emphasis on how we speak to and about others, proper conduct in business, sanctification of the family, charity, and an ongoing awareness of time. Now, non-Jews aren't obligated to keep these additional commandments. Again, we could just sit at home if we wanted to. But they in part show us how we can become closer to God. Now, it's true, the Jews have a special relationship between themselves and God. And so some of their obligations are between them and God. It wouldn't make sense for non-Jews to take them on because it's part of their own relationship. Think about the different relationships that you have with your friends. With one friend, you might share certain traditions, inside jokes, experiences. And with another friend, you may have different experiences, different activities that you guys enjoy, and a different way of relating to each other. Both friends are valid friends, and both friendships are valid friendships, but each relationship has its own character. And so similarly, every non-Jew can have a relationship with God as long as they're walking within those guardrails outlined by the Noahide Code. And by the way, the Jews are in that same guardrail. It's just that with their commandments, their guardrails within the Noahide guardrails are even tighter to develop their specific relationship. So now we can expand on this and make this make more sense according to the Bible. At the beginning of human history, with Adam, there were only non-Jews. All of humanity shared the same responsibility to recognize God and to live according to his moral will, according to the Noahide Laws. However, as history unfolded, humanity repeatedly lost sight of God. For example, we see that violence and corruption spread across the world, leading to the flood in the days of Noah. Later, we see other examples of moral collapse. Think of Sodom and Gomorrah. And even after these events, humanity continued to struggle to preserve a clear knowledge of God. Societies developed power, technology, and culture, but often drifted into idolatry, injustice, and moral confusion. Now, because God's purpose for creation is for everybody to achieve the greatest possible good, but everybody was straying from the proper path to achieve this maximal good, it became clear that there must be a nation that represents God's will to the world, as an example for how societies should live to achieve this maximal goodness. So through the revelation of Mount Sinai and the Torah, the Jewish nation were given a blueprint for a life centered around God. Now, humanity's purpose did not change when God gave the Torah. It remains the same. Follow the Noahide Code. It's just that after the giving of the Torah, the Jewish nation, out of all of humanity, began to carry an additional responsibility to preserve God's instructions and to serve as a light to help guide the people back to the proper path. So it's true that Jews and non-Jews have the same ultimate purpose, for everybody to walk along this path of godliness. The Jewish people preserve the Torah and demonstrate a life centered around God. The nations of the world must uphold a moral order to help build a just and flourishing civilization in line with the guardrails of the Noahide Laws. It's one thing to have a society that follows all of these laws, but it's another thing for this path to be able to be traveled. If there's war inside this path, we can't travel along the path. You can't calmly walk in the middle of a battlefield. And similarly, if you're starving, you're not going to be able to walk very far. There are many conditions about this world that prevent people from walking along this path. Basic human stability is necessary for human spiritual growth. So for this reason, the non-Jew's chief role is to make it so that this path is clear of all obstacles. We must work to build healthy, stable civilizations. We must make life more livable, because when life is livable, it allows us to be able to focus on God and developing godliness. And interestingly, the Torah itself hints at this idea. In Genesis 4, we're told that Jubal became the father of those who play musical instruments, and Tubal-Cain forged tools of bronze and iron. Rabbinic tradition also teaches that Noah improved agricultural technology. Why would the Torah mention these developments? Because all of these developments improve human life. They make the world more livable. They help transform the raw world into a place where humans can flourish. Music enriches the human spirit. Tools make work more productive. Agricultural improvements allow people to grow food more efficiently, to be able to sustain larger communities so that more people can experience more goodness. These developments make it so that the world is more stable, more livable, so that humans can pursue higher purposes. If I don't have to hunt and gather my own food, then I can pursue my other time learning about God and what God wants from us. And hopefully you notice that those improvements that were mentioned in the Torah were from non-Jews. It's a great merit for us to improve human life. In fact, God has gifted each of us with unique gifts and talents. And as non-Jews, part of our purpose is to use these gifts and talents to shape the world to where that path of godliness can be more easily traveled. We talked about farmers and agricultural innovators. They make it easier for us to have food. Doctors, nurses, medical researchers. They reduce suffering and preserve life. When you're sick, it's hard to focus on God. When it's hard for you to move, it's hard to walk the path of godliness. Engineers, inventors, they improve daily life. Think about clean water systems, electricity, communication, the fact that you're able to watch this video. This is all helping for societies to flourish so that we can walk the path of godliness. Educators help people develop moral understanding, knowledge. Again, artists and musicians enrichen the human spirit. It helps us appreciate the goodness of creation. Judges, lawmakers, and policemen help build systems of justice that protect the innocent and restrain wrongdoing. In a lawless society, you have to be so concerned about your own well-being that you can't focus on walking the path. Even further, builders, craftsmen, manual workers build homes and the infrastructure that allows human communities to exist and thrive. This list is not exhaustive. There are many ways for people to contribute, but in all of these, people use their talents to improve the world. Each contribution helps remove an obstacle that might otherwise prevent people from being able to walk the path. And so what if you don't know what your purpose is? What if you feel like you don't have anything to offer the world? First, it's important to understand that Judaism teaches that everybody has a purpose. You have a purpose. God does nothing without wisdom and intention. He's not irrational. He wouldn't create you for no purpose. If you exist, it means you have a role to play in creation. Now, it doesn't mean that everybody's purpose is obvious or dramatic. Many purposes are quiet and may unfold gradually over time. But the fact that you are here means that there is some good that only uniquely you can bring in this world. If you're struggling, here are some potential tips to be able to help you discover your purpose. It often starts with recognizing your talents. What abilities come naturally to you? Some people are analytical, other people are creative, practical, compassionate, organized. Maybe you're skilled with your hands. These abilities are part of the gifts that God has given you. And then recognize your passions. What kinds of problems and activities energize you? What issues do you care about deeply? Often things that move your heart are probably the places that God would like you to contribute. And your experiences also matter. Only you have lived your particular life. Your own unique successes and struggles give you insight that many others may not have. And those insights can help you guide and support others. And also consider your circle of influence. Your purpose may not be to solve every problem in the world, but really to improve the world around you, the world that you can reach, like your family, your community, maybe your workplace, other people around you. To improve the larger world, we first have to start in a small locality. And this smaller locality is the world. You're improving the world. So when you use your talents, your passions, your experience, and your circle of influence to help others and improve the world around you, you are helping make the path of godliness easier for people to walk. And when it comes to developing your godly characteristics, pay special attention to what is difficult for you. Sometimes the struggles that you face most directly, the struggles that are the most challenging for you, are often the places where God has put you to be able to work on. You can maybe think about it like having all those moral characteristics, but we want all of them to be high. So if one is already high, then maybe you don't have to really work on that one as much as if one is really, really low. The one that you struggle on the most, you want to raise that one up. And then when you overcome these challenges, you could then help other people overcome those challenges, because then you have a unique experience that can help others. So to summarize, God wants all of us to possess the most goodness possible. We can possess the most goodness by becoming more like God, developing those moral characteristics with which God identifies, using our free will, and then also by attaching to God. When we attach to God and try to become close to God, we are attaching ourselves to goodness. He's the maximal goodness. And so the Seven Noahide Laws are the guardrails, the foundation of civilization that make it so that we are easily able to possess this maximal goodness. Our purpose isn't just to avoid wrongdoing, to not do that, but really we're supposed to actively develop ourselves and use our abilities to make it easier for everybody else to flourish and to be able to achieve their own maximal goodness. So in short, improve yourself and try to make the world a better place. In this way, godliness will be more easily revealed in this physical world. I hope this made sense. I haven't heard a rabbi use this analogy, but it seems to accord with a lot of what I've read and watched. Anyway, I hope this helped. Thank you, as always, for watching.